very big competitive run. I mean, to play here in Stegeman, getting forward on your own court, you can build some confidence, and it's going to take first attack swings just like that for Georgia.
Leal gets Georgia on the board, going up against Mary Wise. The accolades, the incredible numbers, one of the winningest coaches in the history of this sport, one of the great ambassadors for this sport. The accolades go on a long way for Mary Wise. Vermont Alassane with her first opportunity. So the freshman from Maryland, teammate in club ball of Alex Holston, that's how they found her. And really everybody thought, well, how are they going to fill the void left by Chloe Mond, the all-time leading attacker in the history of this sport. Hit 476 for her career. Vermont Alassane hitting 472. Pretty good numbers to fill. Teknip on the backside. Picks up the kill. Now, Teknip is one of those players that has kind of been a six rotation player at times. There's been a lot of transition for this Georgia team so far this year.
That's right. They started running a 6-2 against Missouri. So really just 3 matches under their belt running that 6-2, trying to generate more offense. And Teknip is a big part of that, swinging on the right side there.
Kendall Kaiser doing the serving for Georgia. Now the setting as well. So since about the 3rd match of SEC play, Georgia has been going with more of a 6-2 formation as Mallett sends it out of play and Georgia ties it up at 2 apiece and takes the lead with 2 straight points. So here's a freshman Kaiser. They've got Kaylee Kehoe, the senior. So now 2 setters are going in. Not everybody's going 6 rotations like they were at the beginning of the season. So a lot of changes for a Georgia team that's trying to generate offense.
And the setter, Kendall Kaiser, I mean, she had only played 40 of the 78 sets that Georgia had played this season coming into this match. So it's not like there was a ton of experience out of that secondary setter. So still learning and growing as this game or the season goes on for the Bulldogs.
Here is Madison Monserrat, one of 3 senior defensive players that has been huge for Florida, not only this year, but the last several seasons. Georgia takes the lead. That's one thing that you'll notice about Florida. Their dig numbers aren't all that impressive, but their opponent hitting percentage is the best in the SEC.
Great defense, and it's anchored by just senior primary passers, and it's such a key in ball control when you've got such effective attackers in the front row.
Alassane is dug up by Leal. It's going to be a big factor tonight. Can they continue to make Alassane work? With 2 swings, she puts one out of bounds, so Georgia has its largest lead at 2. The Gators 16-3, but those 3 losses, 2 of them coming to Florida State and Texas in the preseason. Their other loss, a bit of a surprising one to Marquette in a 5-set match, but Marquette's 3rd in the Big East right now, so not a bad team by any means.
Well, Florida challenged themselves in non-conference. They played 4 straight matches against top 25 teams. They went 2-2 in those, and I think that's what you have to do if you're a Florida team and you want to make a push in the NCAA tournament on the national scene. You have to put your players in those sorts of positions early to challenge and test them and see where you are against the national scene.
So here's Alassane, that wingspan, that reach, so impressive, and it makes serving a little bit easier when you got that type of reach. You don't have to work as hard. And Alassane gets Florida back even at 5.
And Alassane, she was a big basketball player. It was really hard for Mary Wise and her staff to even get to see her play volleyball. So the fact that she's here right now, 2nd in the nation in hitting percentage, is a really big testament to great recruiting from Florida.
Only Moretta Lutz of Stanford is hitting better than Alassane. Lutz is 6'8", and she's hitting 482 for the Cardinal this season. One of the only undefeated teams left in the country. Florida State, who beat Florida, they're also one of those teams. Backside, Alex Holston going very steep. Very impressive kill for their most productive attacker, and it comes from the right side.
She is the go-to attacker. She's a lefty, so it's a little bit hard to judge. She likes that cross, that seam. If the block is not closed, she's definitely going to attack it. Mary Wise says she has the ability to be one of the best right-side hitters in the nation in her career.
Great pass by Leal, setting it up to the backside for Megan Spencer. She's one of the reasons that Georgia went to the 6-2. They couldn't keep her offense on the bench anymore.
Well, she had 14 kills against Mizzou, and she's one of those players that on the right side, adding that attack instead of having a setter there is a big difference maker for Georgia, who's still trying to find who are our go-to hitters. How are we going to score offensively? She's one of those keys.
So now it's Kaylee Kehoe setting and serving out of the back row. A different type of setter, different size of setter compared to Kaiser. That one is sent out by Desi McCray, and Georgia thinking there was a touch. Lizzie Stepke is claiming there was as well. Florida will get the point, ties up for the 6th time in 14 points.
Well, right now you're seeing Georgia getting after it defensively. They're keeping a lot of balls off of the ground, and I think Lizzie Stimpy was happy with the way her team played the first time defensively against Florida. It was a question of, can we end rallies with kills?
They weren't able to do it against Florida the first time. A 3-0 sweep in Gainesville on October the 10th, where Georgia hit their season worst 0-22 against the Gators. Technic backside, blocked back, but Florida is able to take the lead here at 8-7. Last time these two teams met, again, it was just lean times offensively for Georgia. 0-22. Mallett was the team leader with 10 kills. They didn't need to do a whole lot. Al-Hassan was very, very efficient, as was Alex Holston in that match.
And I can't stress how difficult it is to play in the O-Dome. I mean, they just have a great crowd, a great home court advantage, Florida does, when they're able to play and really fill up that arena. I know a lot of teams in the SEC struggle going in there, being able to get out with a win.
They've been there a lot. 4 of their final 5 matches, when they close the season, the Gators are going to be on the road, so it was a bit more front-loaded. Now that also counts the match they're going to play against Texas on the road in Austin to get ready for the NCAA tournament. Gabby Mallett on the outside. And here's another storyline for Florida. The kind of revolving door of outside hitters they've used. Mallett's kind of the player that they expected to be one of their main outside hitters, along with Jiva Raychek. But those two have seen limited time at times this season. Instead, going with a couple of freshmen, there's been a lot of turnaround at that position this year. Georgia gets the point, and continuing to go back and forth. We've been tied 8 times in the first 18 points already.
And that was a very nice up defensively from Florida. Just needed someone to step in and take that second ball.
There's a libero, Gabby Smiley, going after Unruh with a good pass, and Al-Hassan comes away with a kill.
Al-Hassan does such a great job just driving. I mean, you're always going to find her up in the serve receive, in transition, where she takes off. I mean, she gives herself space between herself and the net so that she can get a full arm swing. And she doesn't hit straight in front of her. She's always cutting the ball to keep it away from the blockers.
Service ace on that back line from one of those outstanding players that can really do a lot of damage. 100 aces now for the Gators, and that one from D'Agostino, who leads the SEC with 36 now. High risk, high reward style of serving always for the Gators. 100 aces, over 200 errors. When you get 100 aces, though, you're probably going to have to take some of the errors that you make.
Yeah, and you want to stay aggressive. And what you see there is a great uplifting point you saw with that ace.
Right.
And she still has to go and attack. And I always like a top spin serve because it also keeps your arm going in the back row, especially when it's attackers.
There's Holston. Again, she gets so high, that long reach from the sophomore from Maryland.
And she's just grown over the summer. I mean, being able to play some with national team, but look at that, straight through the seam. That's the same look that we've already seen from Holston. If it's not completely closed, if it's not timed, good penetration, and you're taking away the seam, then that's exactly what she's going to attack with her left hand.
Good short serve by Monserrat. She's able to put it down with her 8th ace of the season. And the Gators have scored 4 of the last 5 and have their largest lead at 3.
The reason that you serve short is to really mess up the route running that the attackers are having in the front row, and that's exactly what Maddie Monserrat was doing there.
The push in the middle. Holston with a tough free ball, but dug up by Anderson. Jasmine Eatman able to reach, get the touch, and get the kill. So side out for Georgia.
And very important, if you're a middle for Georgia, Eatman, she has to cut that ball away from Al-Hassan. I mean, she's going to take up a lot of space, especially in front of her. She reaches over the net, and she has a very big block, so you have to make sure that you're cutting left and right.
Tight serve, but set long. How do you get Al-Hassan out of rotation? Now, again, she's going to the back row, but when she's in the front, how do you get her off route? How do you get her off track?
You can serve it to where she's standing or where you know she would like to run her route. That's a really good way to disrupt an attacker, and probably the best way with serve.
High ball on the backside, but they're going to call a double hit